Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. The Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts is proudly sponsored by the Global Wellness HQ community. It's an online membership group where we meet, we share ideas, we share insights, and we all work together and help one another discover our own personal wellness journeys. If you'd like to join us, you can easily click the link below or scan the QR code, and we love hearing your stories, so we hope to see you in the community. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Atlanta Wellness Ecosystem. As always, I have my co-host and colleague, Pete Kane, with us. And today we're really excited to introduce a friend of ours. Pete has known Steve for a long time. Welcome to the show, Steve Landrum.
Thank you, Jeff and Pete. Good to be here.
Good to have you.
All right. Well, for our listeners, Steve, why don't you first of all tell us who you are, who you work with, and what you typically do in business?
I appreciate that, Jeff. I am the principal of Etowah Sales Solutions, and my business serves as a fractional sales resource to small and medium-sized businesses. What that means is that any type of business, any type of industry that is having a hard time growing their sales, if you think about that kind of business and that kind of profile, we all can. The owner is usually trying to wear about 20 different hats in a business like that. And sales is one of them. And he's probably given them maybe 2 to 3 hours a week toward that effort in sales, maybe more. But whatever that is, I take that off the owner and on a fractional basis serve that business as the sales resource. And I deal with methodology, strategy, salespeople, managing, hiring for that owner, and really serve as a fractional sales leader for as long as needed until the business is healthy on the revenue side.
I love it. And I think honestly, I've dealt with a lot of businesses where they hit a ceiling and they can't scale. And almost always it's because they've exceeded the owner's capacity to do whatever it is in regards to sales, whether it's managing a team or making the calls. Usually that's the first barrier to growth, is they don't have that sales capacity.
That is correct. Notice. So that is exactly right. Usually ownership, sales is something that's kind of foreign language. There's so many businesses that have scaled, actually grown their business by just handshakes and networking, Jeff. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with growing your business through referrals. But a proactive sales approach is the one component that's needed if you're ever going to grow your business to a new level, whatever that looks like, and whatever the business product and service is. So yes, ownership typically just doesn't know what they don't know. That's honest truth.
Yep, that's true. I firmly agree with it. I mean, I've seen it in a number of examples, and it does get kind of like, as important as sales is, because it's the revenue side, it kind of gets the second stepchild. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, we got to do a sales meeting this week. Okay, call the guys in. Oh, they're not. Oh, they're out of town. Okay, well, we'll do it next week. It's all these afterthoughts. And it's important. If you're not growing revenue, you're not going to be around too long.
I love it. Now, before we started recording the show, Steve, you were telling a story about how you went from the corporate world into doing what you do. Would you mind sharing that story? Because I think it's important. First of all, people need to hear your background, but also they need to hear what was that moment where you said, there's more to life.
Well, I love sales. I mean, I've made a career of it. I happen to make my career in technical sales. I come from a technical background. I'm kind of an oddball kind of guy. My brain was built to be in engineering. I've got an engineering degree, but I made my career in sales. So yeah, so my brain's different. But I love sales. I love relationships, and I made my career that way. But as you rise in the corporate ladder, you both know this, and this is so familiar to everybody. It kind of takes a piece of your soul. It takes your time. It takes your energy. It takes a lot. Corporate life takes a lot from you. It gives a lot monetarily and financially, but it takes a lot as well. So honestly, I traveled all over the world. I had national sales teams that I led. Had a great run at every business that I work for. But my moment, I think all of us has that moment in corporate life where you it's that tip that you hit. Um, and mine was in Tokyo. Mine was in Tokyo in Japan in 2019, and it was my 45th trip to Japan. I went to Japan a lot. Our machines were built over there, and I just kind of hit the wall. It was 2 weeks before my daughter's wedding, and I should have been back making wedding plans with her and family, which I got back for the wedding, no problem. But it was the fact that I was there, and it was my moment. It was my moment where I looked up and said, God, if you're up there, show me another way. And that was my moment in corporate life. And I transitioned out and went to build my own business.
I love that. And I think that's, more than most, I think entrepreneurs have heard that or had that moment where it's like, okay, there's got to be a better way. And if my current path doesn't show it or present it, I'm just going to build the new path and away we go. So now, just out of curiosity, how long is a trip from you're in Atlanta? So how long is it for you on average to get to Japan? I'm just curious.
I'll paint the good and the bad. I'll paint the good and the bad. The good news is living in Atlanta, you can fly anywhere in the world direct. I mean, literally, you can fly just about anywhere in the world directly. So you can get on a plane in Atlanta and arrive in Tokyo without having to transfer anywhere. Saying that, here's the flip side of the coin. It's a 14-hour plane ride there and
What?
back. So
Wow.
it's tough. It's tough to sit in a seat for 14 hours.
Wow. Okay, so you've spent 45 trips, at least 14 hours, give or take. Well, let's transition a little, Steve, because I know this is about wellness in general. Now, you're on the show. What are you passionate about in life, and what would you like to share with our listeners?
I appreciate that. One thing I came from a family of entrepreneurs. I came from a family of entrepreneurs. I got all my mom, my dad, uncles, grandfather. I grew up watching them run their businesses. So I happened to be the black sheep that went off into corporate life to make my way. But saying that, there was an aspect of what my family did by serving others in a more organic way, and on a smaller scale, on a more community level, that I really yearn for. I really yearn for that. And I believe in the principle of servant leadership. You asked me what I'm passionate about. So, the best part of life is when you're serving somebody and helping them attain the next level, whatever that looks like, whether that's financial or more time or peace or family or whatever that looks like. That's the best part of life, is when you're serving other folks to help them get to whatever level that they want to get to, whatever that looks like. So that's what I'm passionate about doing in my business.
I
Oh, I
love
love
it.
it. Yep. Dittos. Oh, no, I should say dittos on that.
Yeah, it's not surprising that you two are friends. I think, and I never appreciated the term servant leader until I finally decided to become one. And it is amazing watching others around me and learning from each other, because I think, too much leadership is on, you got to be ruthless. It's all about getting to leadership. It's not about once you're there, how do you stay there? Um, so we're going to ask a bit of a question, and normally we ask about what's the best business advice you've ever received and how did it impact you. Given your background, I'm going to just genericize that and say, what is the best advice you've ever received and how did it impact you?
Well, I appreciate that. I can make it both a business piece of advice and personal piece of advice. Kind of go together. But on the business side, I had great mentors. I had great business mentors that taught me how to do business, and not everybody has that in business. Matter of fact, I think it's sorely lacking right now with a lot of business folks and how they conduct themselves and how they do business and how they just business etiquette in general. But saying all that, I was taught from a young age that it's kind of cliche. Everybody's heard this, but it's so true. Is that people do business with people. People do business with people, and a relationship is the foundation of that of doing business. If you think about it, a relationship. Um, People will talk to you if they want to or need to. Those are the two reasons people want to talk to you: is they want to talk to you. There's a relationship there if they want to talk to you, or if they need to, if they're in an emergency or they got a problem. And to be able for someone to do that, a relationship has to be there. You said it earlier, Jeff, a know, like, and trust has to be there. So everything I've done in business, everything I've done in personal life is based on my relationships and honestly upholding a good name. A good name is the basis of that, is the basis of a relationship. Folks are not going to pick up the phone and want to call you, or even if they need to call you, they're not, if you don't have a good name associated with that relationship. And it's just an old to answer your original question, what's the best advice you've ever been given? It boils down to an old proverb, to be honest with you. A good name is to be desired more than great riches. And if you pursue your name and the goodness that's behind your name, the rest of it falls into place. The riches come.
I love it. Now, just because I'm the host and I can do these things, Pete, what's the best advice you've ever received and how did it impact you?
Well, I don't want to say ditto to Steve because I got to try to be original, maybe D. So I believe wholeheartedly in it. And I wrote a book on reputation, and people think it's like on the online reputation, Google, and all that. But really, your name is paramount. And I was telling a person the other day, I said, how does somebody turn down $800 million? I mean, that was me. I would take it and then I'd give it away. I mean, at least, hey, if somebody's going to give me 800 million, I'm not going to say no. But there was a gentleman who turned it down. You know why? He wanted to repair his reputation. So you said no amount of money, and that's true. I mean, that's almost $1 billion a person. I mean, billion is not to be shaked at. I mean, it's still a billion. I mean, and
Do a
you
lot of
say
good with
no
that.
to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could do. I mean, how many people could you bless with something like that? But that person made a mistake years ago. Now he's trying to repair his reputation. And I tell you, it's not easy. Once you damage your reputation or your name, it doesn't just click and come back. So that's probably mine, Jeff.
I love it. And I'm going to share my new favorite. I was raised to follow the golden rule, which is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And I learned recently there is an author, I think his name, I want to say Michael O'Connor. I might have it wrong. I'll put it in the notes. But he said the platinum rule is to do unto others as they'd want done unto them. And it's such a subtle nuance, but it's knowing that the most fundamental, most important problem to another human being is their problem, not yours.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think in sales, we do, what I would say is a lot of salespeople, sales is something you do to your prospect. Whereas for me personally, sales is the highest form of service. If you're truly empathizing and you're trying to find ways to help your prospect, even if sometimes the answer is it's not us, go work with
Yeah.
our competitor.
Yeah. Hey, if I can jump into what Steve's at the beginning when we were talking about like his background, engineering. I mean, I didn't know this like probably 20 years ago, but a person said to me, "You know who makes the best salespeople?" And I said, "I don't know. People that talk a lot?" "No," he said, "engineers." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "They solve problems. They're used to solving problems." So you go into a situation, you look at a customer or a client, and you go, "What's your biggest problem?" And that person says it, and then you go, your brain starts working on solving it. And that's really, I mean, I love that person shared it with me, because I wouldn't have thought engineers would make the best salespeople.
You guys are talking gold. And Jeff, what you said is so true. It's so true that sales and service go hand in hand. That service principle, because um, so many salespeople want to run this. I'm pointing at my mouth
Mhm.
and use this 90% of the time. And you got two of these. You got two ears and one mouth.
Yeah.
The two ears is the key to sales and serving your customer with
Mhm.
what's best for him. So spot on. You said that so well, and that's the key for a good salesperson to learn. Use the two ears.
And I'm going to distinguish between a salesperson and a sales professional. There are people, I call them salespeople, that, they're very transactional. They're always looking for the next deal. And because they're transactional, they're always looking for the next deal. Um, I don't know why, but The Death of a Salesman by oh, can't remember. I think it was one of the famous playwrights of the earlier
Agmendina.
uh, Death of a Salesman. Let me just confirm that.
Okay.
There was a character named Willie Lomax. Arthur Miller, yes.
Arthur Miller. Yeah.
And I studied that in junior high or high school, and it stuck with me because he was always looking for the next deal, the next deal, the next deal. And I think that's where I'm going to call them, just regular salespeople. They're always looking to sell their thing. When I meet sales professionals, they're always looking to solve a problem that hopefully their thing ultimately solves. And Pete, I'm just going to say that I accidentally discovered engineers make great salespeople, accountants as well, because they're trained to listen. And quite frankly, if they talk more than they listen, they end up getting sued or causing problems. So it is that proportion, the ratio of, you have two ears, one mouth, use them accordingly. So, all right, now this is going to be a fun question, Steve, because this can be applied either to sales or in general. But what are some of the three biggest mistakes you see people making, either on their wellness journey or their business development journey?
Have we got another hour and a half? Yeah, Jeff. I mean, how much time are you giving you here?
Let's
No,
see where it goes. But honestly, there's probably, Pete and I are big fans of 80/20, and there's probably a few big problems that if people just stopped repeating that one, life would be easier for them.
well, it's funny, you do business a long time and you see these patterns. You see when you call on thousands and thousands of businesses over the years, you see these patterns, and it's real interesting to see, especially business owners who have, to their credit, built great businesses. But it's interesting to see that by the definition of being really rich financially, if they built a big business, usually they've mortgaged their wellness to get that richness. So it's a real interesting analogy, because they'll work they'll work themselves to death to become wealthy by mortgaging their wellness. And when they're older, they'll spend all their money that they made to get their wellness back.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
love it.
that's one observation I've seen many, 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 many times.
A friend of mine has a quote, and I don't know if it's his or if he borrowed it, but he said, "We spend our youth spending our health to accumulate our wealth, and then in our golden years, we'll spend anything in our wealth to reclaim our health."
That's it. That's it. And it happens over and over and over and over. And I think it's because business folks become, I'm not trying to point fingers because I'm guilty of it. I mean, corporate life, like I said, took so much of my life and so much of my time away from my family. But it's so easy to get priorities mixed up. It's so easy to forget what's important in life, especially when you have a wife and you got kids and you got a community that's back home that loves you. So, I'm always hearing, from business owners, I'm doing it for them. Even though I'm working 16 hours a day, I'm doing it for them.
Yeah.
While their wives suffer in loneliness, and, while they're, absent dads, and, I'm pointing the finger at me. I missed too many ball games and too many events for my kids growing up. And, it's just trying to be real and be truthful to folks, to don't forget what the best part of life is right here in front of you, in
Yep.
the here and now.
Yep.
Not 20 years from now.
Yep.
So,
And it's
But
funny, I can't remember. I think his name's Jack Valance. He was in a movie with Billy Crystal. It was something about, it was City Slicker. I don't know if either of you have seen that, but in the movie, they ask this wizened old cowboy, what's the secret to life? And he says one thing, and they're all like, what is it? What is it? What's the secret? And he says, that's the secret. It's your one thing. What is important to you? Is it relationships? Is it money? Is it, and I don't know why, but that particular scene has always stuck with me, that so many people are busy chasing other people's dreams. I'm guessing you being sent to Japan, somebody up the corporate food chain from you had a dream, and they knew that they could accomplish it by sending Steve to Japan. But did Steve ever stop and say, wait a minute, what about my one thing?
yeah, I mean, that's well said, Jeff. I mean, and you kind of get in a, you get in a must do type of situation. It's either, do as we say. And all of us have been there. Your job requires it. Your employment is conditional upon it. You got to do this as part of your job. Team player, quote unquote, team player. Are you a team player or not? And it's just, yeah, especially the past 5 years, and COVID. If there's any good thing that came out of COVID, it made all of us rethink and reprioritize what's important in life. So well said. Good point.
if I could jump in, because it just hits me when you say that. So I was at Shepherd, and this wonderful nurse, she was from the Ukraine, and it was just as the war started, and so she goes, "Hey, can I share something with you personal?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not going anywhere." So she said, "Hey, you had a little angel looking after you." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, where you had your stroke, people don't even make it to Shepherd, much less with at least one side is working." I said, "Oh, I feel blessed." And I think my message was, my lesson was, don't wait. I mean, hey, I'm there humming away, working 15 hours a day, just loving what I do, but still overworking myself. And now I don't wait. I just like enjoy it now. I had a friend in my small group say, "Hey, I'm going to work another year and a half so I can get my 10-year pension or something." I'm going, why wait? Why not quit now? You already had a heart scare. What, you get an extra $50 a month from your pension or something? You're not guaranteed tomorrow. I mean, that's crazy. He already had a health scare, and he's planning out another year and a half so he can hit 10 years with this one job. It's crazy how we think. We think another $50 a month is going to make the world a difference, so we put off enjoying what we need to do today.
I love it. And we could get very philosophical. And Steve, you asked how much time we have. All the time in the world for great conversations. So I do appreciate that this, normally our listeners are used to a more structured interview, but the reality is, I believe these conversations go where they need to go. And what I think, and honestly, this is so far my favorite point, and we're going to have more favorite points, but just that awareness, sitting in the airport saying, is this what life's about? If I can encourage anyone listening, have that conversation. I mean, it's a fascinating thing. I've had conversations with my wife where I'm doing things to further my career, and she's like, but the conversation usually starts with, I'm doing this for you. But usually it means I'm about to get on an airplane and go somewhere. And is it really for the family, or is it for me, or is it,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
often than not, it's for somebody else, not even for ourselves. All right, Steve, I'm going to throw a really hard question at you. So I know you're on a bit of a journey. You wanted to talk about being spiritual and mindful. What are your top tips? And normally I say, what are 3 tips? But honestly, give us a couple of tips that people listening to the show can implement to help them on their own wellness journey.
Well, it kind of goes back, Jeff. I appreciate you asking the question. It goes back to what I said earlier: is that people mortgage their wellness to pursue usually riches, finances. And I believe in, if you get the wellness part right, if you get the wellness and the balance and the priorities right, including the spiritual. I happen to be a businessman that believes in God. I believe that there's a creator God that loves us, and he's above us and cares about us. That's what I believe. Um, I don't. So many folks ignore that. So many folks ignore that part in their life. That there's a God that cares about you and wants a relationship with you. So that's part of the wellness picture that I really want folks to say, hey, let me look into that. Let me test that. And that go along with that. Let me just share the social side of that. And it ties into what I said earlier, is that if God made us this way, the way we are, we're supposed to be relational people. We're not supposed to be isolated on an airplane, flying all over the world with no friends and picking up a cell phone, calling their wives from halfway across the world. So the social part is missing in so many people's lives, I believe. I mean, especially us men. Men are terrible about making friendships, making deep friendships. I think women do a little better job of that. But the social part of our lives is so important, not only to support our spiritual walk or spiritual side, but it's who we are. Relationships are meant to be fostered and meant to be grown. And I'm talking about a side. They can be in business. You can make good friends in business, but I'm mostly talking about outside of business. People that can support you and who you are and what you want out of life. And that is lacking in so many people's lives.
Wow.
Hey, Jeff, I see a return visit from Steve as a guest there. I mean, I know we could probably talk to the rest of the end of the day, but let's just have him back as a guest, and that would be really good.
Absolutely. I think there's so much more we could explore. And I mean, the reality is, I think, so Steve, I don't know if you know this about Pete. You'd have no way of knowing this about me. We are absolutely fanatical about community, about relationships. And our favorite conversation that we have over and over and over again is about running masterminds and being in masterminds. because I think, as you've said, tend to be really terrible at the relationships. And I think way too many people have put their job or their career or whatever it is first. Like somehow us being a whole human being is separate from us being successful at our job. The most successful people I know, the number one thing they do differently than the rest of us is they focus on the relationships.
It's perfect. You're spot on, Jeff. The leaders that I admire the most, I'm talking in business, are the folks that put others in front of them. They put themselves at the back of the bus, at the back of the line for their employees, for their relationships, and they put the needs of others before themselves. Those are the leaders that I want to follow and that I want to be a part of and know and learn from. I still want to learn, obviously. And so, well said. I think it's missing so much for leaders to show the way, and to be that example of everything that we're talking about.
I love it. Something tells me, Pete, we're going to be running a mastermind for those servant leaders in Atlanta and just giving people a place to develop that because,
Yes.
I've had the privilege of working with amazing servant leaders. Like no matter where I go in my life, in my career, if they call me and say, Jeff, I need a favor, they've got it. And I've also had many managers, and I'm going to distinguish that, where they were always fighting to get to their next promotion. It was all about them and their career. They could offer me 800 million and I'd have a hard time saying yes to them because they haven't earned the right to ask me for a favor. Now, Steve, we're coming to the end of our time together, but one of the things I like to do is I love connecting amazing people with other amazing people, as does Pete. So, for our listeners, how can they connect with you? How can they learn more about you in your fractional sales role or you in your spiritual and social roles?
Appreciate that, Jeff. I can easily be found on LinkedIn, Steve Landrum. Again, my company name is Etowah Sales Solutions. LinkedIn page, you can find everything you want to find about me.
All right. Well, Steve, it was really, truly a pleasure. Any friend of Pete's is a friend of mine, but I just want to thank you for taking the time to be on our show. And we'll let our listeners reach out to you as they see fit.
Great podcast. Thank you, Jeff and Pete.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve, for being a guest. We appreciate you.
Thank you much.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.